very simple way on the history of haptic, how it starts for a newborn, how it's developing, and then we'll go to practicing about this movement in a very slow way.
So this would be the ontology of the development of for the newborn? This is the ontology of the haptic?
It's true, the world is trapped, yeah. I understand what you mean. So, one thing which is quite important, because very often we are so used to ontology, as you say, but to make the difference between motricity and sensoriality, which in fact don't exist at all. So it's a very complex question. We keep going on, I'm moving and I'm perceiving, when there is no such a thing. So I think it's quite important to make a little time for that. And if you see a newborn, an organism, first it develops the flow analyzing, and it will take 5 months almost before it's capable to make image analyze. So I explain. So you have the flow of light. Where I'm sitting here, there is a flow of light coming in this direction. It's a constancy. And when I move with my body, I see that change the constancy of the flow. So since the beginning, this was the first step of anything is that, oh, the flow is co-working with my movement. It's the first catch of the baby about that. It will take a long time before the baby is capable to analyze this is a window, this is a person. So in the beginning, it's only flow analyzing. I insist on that. It's still not image analyzing. It's not giving meaning to what is seen. Another field of stimulus, which is quite important, is the one of gravity. This one is absolutely constant, so it's like that. And the baby, when he's making a movement, he feels that there is a difference of the sensing of gravity depending on the movement he's doing. So there is an attachment, immediate, radical, and direct between motricity and sensoriality. So there is no something like isolate sensoriality. Leishman and Lee, they go still to say that vision is part of the kinesthesia. There is a visual kinesthesia. It's true because now, when the baby is moving, the flow of light is coming like that. Since this changing impression in my eyes go with this movement here, there will be completely interlaced. And then I can use the light to know how I'm moving after a while. Because the light is doing this movement, I know I have done this movement. Or the opposite, the light is changing and this movement. But it's covariant. It's okay to say that. So it's completely covariant since the beginning. And this flow is not sensorial modality separated. It's not only visual, only touch, it's constantly working together. There is not at that stage a dissociation. So what's making the language, the space is the language, the common point of the sensoriality. Space is the common language to the sensoriality. If you see somebody having a haptic problem in the visual, let's say you are only focused on one eye. If you come to see him, let's say like your eye is focusing on the right eye. But if I do like that here and like here, you will have the same. The right cheek will not feel the same. It's not only visual, it's not that there is peripheral, you understand what I mean? So peripheral activity is not monosensorial.
Say that last time
The
again.
peripheral, what I call flow analyzing, which is only what the baby has in the beginning, it's not separating the sensorial input. There is visual input, and you see that even in adult, we will see that later, that if you have a lack of presence in the space, which is space neglect, we could say, you will in general never be only on one sensorial modality. You would not be visual, you will not be. We are so used to say visual like separating from motricity, and then visual separating from touch, when it's not the case. So the beginning of life is flow analyzed, not image, not sound. It's a flow of sound, but not the meaning of the sound. It's the feeling of the touch, but not analyzing what is the touch. So at that stage, the baby don't have memory. He feel only when he move. He think only when he move. Since there is no memory. It's later that when he start to have focal or image analyzed, and then even if he's not moving, he can make the image coming in his mind. But the first one is only flow analyzed, nothing like a meaning, which corresponds to peripheral activity, what I call peripheral. And again, in the peripheral activity, there is no separation between the modality, vision, audition. So what happened? I think it's so important, because what I say right now for the child, it's what happened if you are with a client and you want to change something in his body at that level, you will confront to the same question as the baby. This flow analyze is so important because directly it's modulating your tonicity. So the tonic function is completely dependent of this flow activity, the way you and emotion. So I will take that. Emotion, flow analyzing, tonicity of the posture. It's like a triangle where you cannot separate.
Say the triangle again. Flow and
Posture, tonicity, tonicity of your body, the flow analyzing, and the emotion. It's so important, so really. And why like that? Because when I am a baby, and this light is very disturbing me, it's like too much. So the only way I can relate to deal with this too much light is by tonicity, and this tonicity is accompanied by an emotion of unsatisfaction. It will take a long time before the baby becomes autonomous, in the sense that this light is too much, I'm turning my head. But in the beginning, he cannot do that. He has not access to this mobility. So immediately, all the sensorial flow will make like a constant I like, I don't like, because and each time it will be emotional. Which is, there is no one thing for a baby, we can not be emotional in the beginning, till he is enough good in kinesthesia that he can turn the head to the light. So, I insist on that. And this moment, which is the image analyze, start only when you are 3 months, 4 months. When you go toward the first attempt of verticality in the sitting position of the child.
That brings the meaning. That brings the meaning.
The image analyzing. The image analyzing the image. So you can have a psychic activity beyond the movement, beyond the moment. In the beginning, it is moment dependent. If there is too much light, there is too much light. If the light stops, I'm happy, but I don't make a connection with that and my position of my body, and it's like and the tonicity, each emotion, each too much stimulus, or not enough looking for stimulus, will be accompanied by the emotion. It's constant. So each first movement for a baby is an emotion. It's only when we start to have the image analyzed then he can start to feel and to think without moving. So this is the starting of the psychic activity, the mind activity and the psychic activity.
Say it slow again. When he has the image.
In the beginning, I'm full of emotion, tonic activity, because I don't know how to deal with the stimulus, too cold, too hot, too light, too whatever. So every time it's made a reactivity in the tonic muscle. And especially what we call the tonic muscle, and I will come a little later, which is linked to the tonic function.
And then you said when they can have the image.
When there is a start of an image, then he can think and he can anticipate. And because he can anticipate, then the emotional level drops. So he can confront with all that without too much emotion. But each time, and the question, which is say that like for the baby, but the same for an adult, each time you will make a new step, any new step in motricity or capacity, you have to pass through the flow analysis, through the emotionality. So there is no progression, there is no possibility to make a new technicity with my body without a little flashback to the previous state where is only peripheral, emotional and tonic activity. So there is no way.
How do you categorize when one child will be very startled by light, and another child in the same circumstance will just observe? There isn't the same response from one baby as another.
No, it's exactly that. It's the subjectivity starts from here. So the subjectivity of the mind and of the psyche.
So it's just pure luck that one will be startled and the other won't. I mean, at what point, I mean, I have grandchildren. One will go in the night, and the other will just happily grin.
But there is for that one part which is genetic. There is a nervous organization which is very linked to your genetic, coming from your birth. And one part was from the history, which starts since the beginning, with inside the belly life, intrauterine life. There is already a functionality of that which is working. So depending, there is an history already here. So I will insist on this moment of peripheral flow analyzing, where all the sense is mixing, it's not separating. There is a covariation of my body feeling and the sensory organ, so there is no more way to say. And the capacity for the baby to develop the next step, which is image analyzing, sound analyzing, cortical activity, focal activity, will rely completely on the quality we have developed, on the tonico-emotional sensory flow analyze.
So you cannot bypass this. This is automatically happening. That is setting the free movement.
Yeah. And when you develop this flow analyzing, which is linked to the tonic movement of the body and with an emotional life, this prepare step by step the capacity to be focal vision, cortical, to be kinesthetic alone analyze, but in the beginning you have to pass by that.
So having access to mirror neuron activity is identical to that?
I will come to that. This is the next step.
If we can apprehend that, the movement will always go smoothly, the flow. If you get the chance to allow this first phase to happen.
The first phase is mandatory, is a creuset, is in that you are unfolding a capacity of psyche, mind, emotional activity. So, and the functioning of the focal vision of the sound is depending on the tonic capacity. I insist on that. It's depending on the tonic activity. So you develop a tonic, emotional tonic activity, and later the eyes, like the focus, cortical one. The sound, like understanding what you say, will be depending on this moving capacity, emotional, tonic moving capacity. The reason is a big trap, because if there was not that, it would be very easy for an adult to change way of moving. Sometimes it's so difficult to change way of moving because each new acquisition will need a change in the peripheral flow, emotional, gravity activity. There is no way to not go through that, even for an adult.
You use the word flow analysis.
Yeah.
How do you mean the word analysis at that moment, at that state? What do you mean by that?
Flow, for example, when the flow of light is coming like that, and I'm moving and it's changing, I start with this correlation of kinesthetic information and changing in my flow to have an analyzer. Step by step, I know if I do that, I could go away or I could go near.
So analysis at that level is really the capacity to be self-actualizing or moving relative to the circumstance. Okay.
But in the beginning, it's only flow.
Yeah.
So it's no.
And then you're not thinking about it, but you are exploring, finding.
It's exploration. I think the word is important. It's an exploration. And this exploratory, sensory, tonic, emotional, and exploratory moment make an activity in the mind, but if immediately I stop to move, there is a stop of the activity in the mind, in the beginning. It's only at the second level, when I'm around 3-5 months, I start to have image analyze, that then I can keep an activity without making a movement. But in the beginning, it's only when I'm moving that I'm thinking.
Yeah, often it's also like when you are overwhelmed in that state, you just close your eyes and you sleep, no?
Yeah.
And you sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And then to come to the question of Connie about neuron neuron, in the moment of distress of the baby, tonic distress, which is the only body language, so all the expressivity. Oh, yeah, so this stage set my expressivity. Later comes the semiotic. I make that because I mean that. But before the expressivity like tonic found, it will be setting by that.
By distress.
By the flow movement of my body, coming back to the peripheral attitude, coming back here. And what is so important? It's in this moment of distress.
Distress, you mean activation? Or
Maybe it's French. Distress. A little panic, a little
activation.
Activation. Then the important point would be the adult which is around, because they participate to this moment. So first, to make clear my talk, I'm separating, but that happens in the mirror of the adult. So I give you an example. Which is a very classical experiment which has been done by different scientists. If you put a floor and all of a sudden there is a hole, but the hole is covered by a glass, transparent glass. So you make the baby moving, and then he arrives to the front, and there is a paradoxal. Still, he feels he can walk, but at the same time he sees a hole. Some baby go, some baby don't go. What make a change with the baby go? The baby don't go. The face of the adult which is looking at the experiment. If the face of the adult which look at the experiment is very quiet and very light, the baby will go. If there is a little whatever is adult, the baby will not go.
So when the adult shows a tonic function activity,
exactly, a peripheral attitude which makes it feeling good, then it's strong. Let's go to the baby, use the mind of the other. brain of the mother or the father have already capacity of analyze. He have not. But he knows how to parasite the activity of the other, which is an important point. When you work in psychoanalysis, it's quite a moment intense about projection, how we project the other. And so this become this triangle with a tonic dialogue. First it was a tonic, emotional, flow, peripheral, I don't know what's going on, but there is somebody else here around, hopefully, and this dialogue of tonicity, because it's the tonicity of the adult, we talk to the tonicity of the baby, it's only emotional and like that, will make the first dialogue.
Just like a mother seeing the tonus of distress, seeing the baby be in anguish, that's how she or he knows to have an
what she
interaction.
understands.
She's reading.
Yeah. Which we can make a new statement. So the core activity, the first function of the core activity is not to stabilize me, is to be capable of dialogue. Which can become very complex. To be aligned in a good line is more than to have a body aligned. It's linked to the expressivity which is behind this tonicity. Then it changes quite a lot the way you see. And if you work for a dancer, if you see a dancer, performer, actor on stage, you say some people have a huge presence, some not. So what, this guy is a star. I don't know why Marlon Brando is a star or whatever. If you analyze Marlon Brando at the moment where he catches the eyes of the audience, it's very clear. It's the moment where he goes in the flow perception of the audience. Instead of analyzing he comes back to a baby stage where he is receiving. It is a complete peripheral. So since he is in the peripheral, he attracts the sea, and there is an empathic moment. He receives that, he is doing more, and there is kind of what we call presence. Presence, you say?
Acceleration of presence.
So it's really always presence, and that way is always an interactive moment.
He go in dialogue tonic.
Yeah.
He go in a tonic dialogue because I'm so open to the audience. Him being in the peripheral, remember that peripheral and receiving is egocentric. Peripheral is egocentric. The image, the world is coming to me, the flow. is a flow reception. Then the focal will be different. This is my eyes going in the world to selection, to make a selection. My hand is going here and not here, so it's different. But the first stage, which is flow analyze, is completely by receiving. So it's totally egocentric, in a good sense. You know, the world is coming to me, the flow is coming to me, but this flow I start to learn to, by my motricity, to change the flow activity. I don't know why. This may be the first aesthetic of my life. I may or what Freud was telling that in a different way, that the baby is polymorphic perverse. What this means is not bad when he says that, but it's fit with what I'm telling you. So there is no separation with the sensory, so you know to take pleasure for everywhere at the same time. We're not separating the visual or the. So you see that's very simple. I will develop later, you know, the second stage when it's body focal vision or whatever, but to stay in this bath of the first moment, where even as an adult, if I want to change my motricity, I will have to pass by change in the, like a baby is preparing for a long time, you know, to go to the image analyze. if I want to change something in my body, I have to prepare, to go back a little in this moment of to change something. If not, I will repeat. I will become better and better technically, but my expressivity will stay the same. So we know some dancers are expert in technicity, but after a while it's boring to see them moving, or an actor or whatever, because they don't change this. You say, but okay, this is pure psycho-philosophy. It's not, because Connie sent me the other day a list of number of spindle in muscle. You know, how many spindle in 1 gram of muscle. So, and they go all over the muscle of the body, how many spindle. And of course, the most spindle, like 40 spindle by gram, is in the suboccipital, interosseous,
Lumbricus?
the other like interosseous.
The short plexus in the hand?
Yeah, the muscle of the hand and the feet. The most spindle, but far away, it's like between 20 and 40 spindle by gram, while in the other normal muscle is 1 spindle by gram, or even less, 1 spindle for 2 grams of muscle. Here is a huge amount of spindle. So, this is the haptic muscle. It's haptic, the more linked to the way you manage the flow coming from your hand, from your feet, and from the vision. So this muscle. So you remember spindle? Is it this spindle? Yeah. Spindle is what maintains the tonus in the body. But the interesting point was the spindle is what we call the gamma group. I don't know if everybody has in mind. No. Spindle is, you tell me honestly, I'm saying something. Spindle is okay for everybody?
Yes.
The little, we are, you know, in each muscle you have a lot of little organ specific, which is a little muscle, different of the muscle which is inside, and with annulus around, which give information to the spine. So it's the brain of the muscle in a way. But the question of this spindle, this fiber there is in the spindle, is not alimented in terms of contracting by alpha motor neuron, but by gamma motor neuron, which is directly from the brain. So the reactivity of the spindle depends on the activity of the gamma motor neuron. Gamma motor neuron directly depending on the emotional state. So the spindle activity, if you are supple or not supple, if you want to make a stretch, a good stretch, is depending on your emotional state. Is it too quick?
No.
I don't want to be too much physiology, but I think it's worth it to understand the process of that. So if you have a muscle like that, here you have let's say you have a spindle. Okay, and this spindle is attached to like that. Okay. When there is a stretching, when this muscle is stretching, this spindle gives an information to the spine, and the spine responds by a contraction of the muscle. You understand that? Why is like that? Because it's very often, if I'm standing up and I'm falling like that, the spindle here feel it and make a contraction, so I come back. So it's the oscillation, you know, the oscillation of central body is coming from that. But this reactivity could be modulated by the innervation of the spindle, which is the gamma motor neuron. And this gamma function. One is to distribute the emotion in the body, so there is emotion, tonicity, emotion, which is completely linked through this gamma loop. And the second is to be very, if you want to make new movement, very subtle movement, or very, you will trigger the alpha motor neuron here, which make a contraction of the muscle, through the way of the spinning. It's very sophisticated. Instead of having the brain doing that through the pyramidal way from the motor cortex, you will go through gamma exciting the spindle. The spindle will trigger this activity. So there are two ways to move a muscle. Through the gamma loop, I do that, and through the alpha motor neuron or cortex, or through the gamma. But if you go through the gamma, you will be emotionally dependent. It's what I was calling long ago the gamma touch. When you touch somebody without a willing, without a motricity. What is the gamma touch? It's to go back to the flow peripheral attitude of the baby before 3 months. If you want to have a dialogue with the baby when he's in the belly of his mother, you can, but you have to use the gamma touch. You don't understand. If you take the baby with my hand and I want to move the baby because he's presenting in a bad direction, and I do that by very softly, but by gently, but by willing, it's not reaction. If I'm touched by the baby and being in an egocentric position, peripheral attitude, then you respond. So you see all what I'm telling, you come back again and again to the situation of emotion, tonic postural activity, and dealing with the flow of reception. And then you find a lot of spindle, a lot of gamma loop, everywhere in the body where there is a big haptic responsibility. So when there is a huge haptic responsibility, there is a huge number of spindle and a huge capacity of touching. So it's very simple. And so it's go to many points where you have developed, but it goes also of, in red, you have agency, in green, non-agency, wu wei.
So alpha. Yeah.
Wu wei, the Chinese concept of wu wei, non-doing, which is the base of any thinking about movement in the Chinese tradition is about the wu wei, non-agir, not doing, sorry. About that. So the doing will be with the red one.
Which is alpha, which is
Alpha motor neuron. And non-doing will be through the setting of, I'm setting my tonicity through the emotional way, non-analyzing too much, whatever, and then I am living in this world like that. Which at the end would be really, I don't want to be too much theoretical, we will go to practical, but for me it was very important to really anchor this question because it's so important. So, let's come to the critique of core stabilization muscle. So, why there was a critique? Because it was not efficient. It's not efficient. I will pass you, if you want all this text, we will make a list of text and then I will send you by email. Okay? So I will send you if you are interested in the critique of core stabilization.
This is, just to make sure I understand, this is the popular core stabilization work that's done all over, and it's a critique of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was like a big wave of core stabilization.
Continuing, right?
Yeah. And then there was a critique coming more and more, and for me I completely agree with that. Not that it's not true that the core muscle work first, but the pedagogy we are using to talk to the muscle is completely fake.
It's the wrong
It's the wrong way. If you want to use the red to change the gamma activity, you are done.
Yes.
So there is something going with the unconscious, psychology, emotion, tonicity, expressivity, dialogue, which is going on. And if you think you will comment that by the gross cavalry of the alpha motor neuron, is not working. All this applies very simple, let's say, Leo, if you want, I was looking at you making Surya Namaskar. So let's do the first part of Surya Namaskar. Salute to the sun.
That's right. Okay. All the first.
Just the first one, yeah.
So warrior one or
Just the one and coming down. That's it. Okay. Let's do it 2 or 3 times so everybody can. You see well or you want the light?
It's good. It's good.
Light on the stage.
So warrior one or just.
Okay, so I will be interested, you will do again 2 or 3 times. I will be interested in the tonic activity. What kind of tonic activity is going here? If I see, the moment, and you do it again. Okay, it's good, it's not bad, or I don't want to criticize you or something. But I do, I make a lie. So if I exaggerate, maybe, okay. The tendency would be that the motor was to make a movement here, to make this movement, which is alpha motor neuron, is alpha activity. So why? Because if I do that, I'm contracting the coccyx, contracting this area of here. But if you use the arctic, what do you use to do that? You have the lombrical under the feet, and you have the baroreceptor. You understand? The pressure capsule under the feet. If the weight is going in front, you will press the baroreceptor, and you will trigger through the gamma loop. You will trigger the extension. So I have 2 ways to do the extension. Or just putting the weight a little more with the toes lengthening here, and then the movement will here, and there is absolutely no lock here, or I do. So let's do everybody. So